here with my wife Nicole. She's going to ask me some farm questions that she has. She did not grow up on a farm, and I was not farming when we got married. It was a few years later when I came back to start farming with my dad. So she's got some questions for me, and we also asked Facebook people for questions, and I have not seen any of these questions. So here we go.
Okay. So for anyone that does not know, how did you get started with farming?
I've always lived on the farm. It's the only thing I did for a job during summer break from school. It's what I went to college for, and then I decided not to, which I think I'm going to make a whole nother video about. And I worked in retail for about 6 years until I really didn't like it. And then in 2009, 10, almost 11 years ago now, I came back to the farm full time.
Okay, and so this brings us to our first question from Facebook. Describe how your farm ownership transitioned from the previous generations to you. What challenges and growing pains were there? And is there anything in the process that you'd have liked to have done differently?
Okay. When I came back, it was very easy. It's not easy for a lot of people. I had it really easy. I was always able to come back. I always had a green light that I could come back. And when I decided to, Dad actually paid me a salary for a year that was actually about equal to what I made in town the year before. And then we switched to, between Dad, Grandpa, and I, sharing costs and profits. So it was like Dad 50, Grandpa 30, me 20. And then Grandpa and I started to do this. I'd go up 5% a year, he'd go down until we got to a point where Grandpa was like 86 or 87 and paying maximum Social Security tax. So he went to all unearned income, which basically meant his salary was me paying him cash rent for all the ground in his name, and otherwise Dad and I were 50-50 after that, and that's the way it's been ever since.
And then another question from Facebook. How is your farm enterprise set up? Is it like an LLC, a C Corp, LLP, sole proprietor? And does that include lands or just operations? And do you have any transition plans or estate plans?
Dad and I are two sole proprietors, basically farming the same land and using the same equipment. We're not incorporated. Maybe we should be incorporated. You think we should be incorporated?
I do.
Our attorney friends think we should be incorporated. But anyway, right now we're two sole proprietors, Dad and I, and everything is pretty much equal. There is a few mortgages that are just in my name or just in his name that we kind of take care of separately. Since Grandpa passed about a year and a half ago, I've picked up some of the load on that, so we're pretty much 50-50 on everything. There's a few little oddball things here and there.
Would you ever want a different job?
Nope.
Nope, okay. Um,
I had one.
would you ever consider buying a different brand of equipment?
Yes. If you've been following us, you know we're pretty green. A big reason for that is we have a really good dealership with really good staff that's 15 minutes from the farm. That's the biggest part. We wouldn't be afraid to try anything else. In fact, Dad was showing me a couple Case 420 quad tracks, used ones for really good prices the other day. So we're not scared to go red or blue or yellow. We just, green works very well for us from a parts and service standpoint.
Do you ever feel stress while running equipment?
No, not really, I guess.
What about new equipment, something you haven't ran before?
That'd be fun.
Well, I asked because I found it very stressful when I did it.
Yes.
Like there was a lot going on, and you do it, and you do it like, I mean, yeah, you do it every day because you know that's what you do. But it looks like it's nothing when you're doing it, and I'm doing it, and I can't do everything and remember everything, and I'm like, ah.
Yeah, but I couldn't do your job either.
Right.
But no,
No.
it's not stressful. I mean, there's times when I'm really focused for not running into things. When I'm on, especially on the edges of fields, you know, there's obstacles here and there. You know, I've hit stuff a few times, never directly. I just kind of scraped by. I hit that railroad iron fence post
I was gonna say.
one time. That was going down the road. I hit a railroad iron fence post marking a property line with the draper going down the road on the combine.
When you're just going to the
And
field right next door.
her and a kid were with me. And after that, I parked it and said, let's go home.
So when you were saying that you're focused sometimes, do you ever sing in the tractor or combine?
Yes. No, there's not going to be video.
Do you ever dance?
No, but the combine floor is a pretty good, like, bass drum.
And I was curious, this is another Facebook question. What does it take to make you smile? A not cheesy.
Why is that a question?
That's from Janice.
From Janice? A surprise selfie stick. She knows that already. I cannot smile on purpose in a photo. Janice.
But the question, I think more specifically, was not a cheesy smile.
This is probably it. Right here.
This is a question from one of my coworkers.
Which one?
I don't know. Under what conditions would popcorn pop in the field?
I don't think it would. I don't think it'd get hot enough.
What if it was on fire?
Well, we were burning some stuff one time, and I threw some cobs of popcorn, ears of popcorn, on the fire, and they just burned. I think it was too hot, too fast.
So it was like a fire like right next to it, maybe?
Maybe within the vicinity, it might.
Okay. This is a question from Facebook. Can you give more information on field planning for the year ahead, associated costs, profitability, etc.?
Oh, that's a big question. I might not get into the numbers off the top of my head, but we do every January, February, we do a budget with what we plan to plant that has line item for everything on it. And we put in a 5-year average yield and a price for that time of the year. And hope we're lowballing ourselves on yield. And yield is a little higher, and maybe price is a little higher, but it gives us something to start with. We basically rotate corn and soybeans in every field. We usually have one field that's corn after corn. And we do run a little heavy on beans if you count the double crop after wheat. But we mostly rotate. And since we're doing some cover crops, the type of cover crop we have goes with the crop that's following it.
Why do you have one field that you usually do corn after corn and don't rotate that one?
It just works out that way usually because we have popcorn, waxy corn, and seed beans that are all contracted acres. So we kind of have to fit those contracts into the fields we have. So like just this week, we found out the seed bean program is changing and the waxy place wants to give us more waxy acres. So that actually works, taking an 80-acre field and putting it back to waxy corn again, this year will give us like the exact amount of waxy acres we want. And we were actually short on our current little rotation spreadsheet. And now I think it's okay.
Okay.
And a lot of times we won't get those, like today's December, it's Christmas Eve. A lot of times we don't know those contracts till after the first of the year. And we normally order seed in September. So everything is subject to change.
What do you think your next purchase for the farm will be?
I could cheat and say we just traded for a brand new John Deere 712 folding corn head last week. That should be here in March. I think that's probably the only equipment we are buying for 2020. Probably going to put in more drainage tile. Not very likely. Our combine we've had for one season. If the exact right, maybe 1-year-old machine comes up with the right price and our trade-in is the right price, the way our combine is financed, it's possible we could go up another year to like a 2018 combine and keep roughly the same payment. But I don't think that's super likely.
If money was not an object for one item, what would you buy for the farm?
Grain bins.
Like, would you do less and larger ones, just more of them? What would you do?
2 more large ones. Let's just say 2 60,000 bushel bins.
It means nothing to me.
That would
That's fine.
increase our storage by a lot. Right now we might not even fill it. But I don't know. I just like taking stuff to the farm, not waiting in line at the elevator. And then we have a little more control on price, which hopefully goes up after harvest. I like, if we could store everything, I would.
What is a skill that you do not have that would be beneficial for you at work?
Can I do more than one?
Sure.
I won't say cannot. I have no training as a welder, a carpenter, or an electrician. So those would all be handy skills. Or mechanic. I would do, if I had to go back to school again, I'd probably go to college for agronomy again because that's what I like. But it'd be nice to have learned a trade.
Okay, so your dad, that I'm aware of, does not have training in any of those either.
No, my dad actually only went to Purdue for 3.5 years because that's all he needed to get, or it was 3 years and a summer, something like that. He took a big course load.
So what do you guys do with all, when things that need welding, mechanical work, electrical work right now, since neither of you have training in that?
Depends on how important the welding is. I've been doing some. That's always been a requirement of our full-time person is to be a welder, and we haven't had a full-time person for almost 4 years. So I've been kind of screwing around with that. Anything major electrical, we go to Rodale in town, and you know, we do all our service work ourselves. But if something really seriously needs torn down, it goes to the dealership.
Okay, this is another question from Facebook. Describe Harvest 19 in one word, don't swear.
Fire or broken.
And this is another Facebook question. I think it goes well with what you said about wanting more storage. By storing and drying the grain, are you making a profit? Why not harvest when the grain is drier and then selling it at that point?
Okay, let's assume we're talking about corn. If we wait till it's totally dry, one thing, like this year, the last corn we took out was planted the first week of June. And we're taking out the middle of November, and it was still 26% moisture. And it had been 26% for a couple weeks. So it was not going to dry. Or it could freeze dry over the winter, and I bet you half of it would be on the ground if we waited till March to harvest it. So, and there is some thought of, it's called phantom yield loss. You will, say, get more yield at 25% than you would at 15 or 18%. So we dried it down. We had a lot of drying costs this year. I had to get the propane refilled a lot to where we're looking at some larger bulk storage options, maybe. But if you don't store it, you gotta take it to town, you gotta wait in whatever the line is. A couple years ago, when we had a really big harvest, we had right at 100 truckloads went to town. So that's good. We had 100 truckloads we couldn't keep on the farm, but it takes a very long time. Sometimes the trucks are there for an hour to 2 hours to dump, and it's a hour round trip to and from the field where we take most of the stuff. So storing is about efficiency and giving yourself more power with the grain market. And you can store and sell later at the elevator, but they're going to charge you a per bushel fee for them to handle.
Okay. What is a problem that you frequently have at the farm?
The weather's not perfect. I don't know.
Okay. I don't know if you, I'm not even sure of a good example. If you frequently have, I don't know, mechanical problems, if you frequently have
No, I
breakdowns.
mean, this year, every truck broke in some way. We spent at least, it might even be low here. I said we spent $25,000 on the 3 trucks this year.
What is the weirdest thing that you have found in a field?
Oh man. I did find a high chair the other day.
Mm-hmm. Good condition.
Probably in the middle of our second largest field, 252 acres, I found a shoe, which was a half mile from the road in any direction. A red basketball shoe.
What is something that you think most people don't know about what you do?
Well, people don't know. See, this is hard because I've never not done it. So I don't know what other people think. The only thing I can think of off the top of my head is most people probably think all the corn they're seeing is sweet corn. And sweet corn is like 1% of U.S. corn production. So unless you live in sweet corn central, I could probably make an argument you've never seen a commercial sized sweet corn field. I haven't.
I would agree, because I think people don't think about that even until they really look at it. The popcorn looks different, the
Yeah,
kernels.
people don't even think popcorn. They think all corn is, it starts as corn and then you make it sweet or pop it or whatever afterwards, which is not true.
A lot of people ask me, basically, when you're not planting or harvesting, what are you doing? Because you work
Right.
year round.
Right.
And Saturdays year round as well.
It does get slower when we're not in the field, but as soon as we're done planting, I go out and fertilize corn, which really only takes a week or two. But with the storage we have, I did rough math in my head once. We store a little over 170, not quite 175,000 bushels of grain on the farm. So just rough estimates, between the end of one harvest and the beginning of the next harvest, we need to move 1.5 to 2 trucks a day. So I do spend a lot of time trucking, which people probably don't think about that either.
I would agree. This is my last question from Facebook, is how did you get such a good-looking wife?
Who said that?
I don't remember. That was like at least 3 times that was asked.
3 times?
You sound surprised.
Oh, it's because we had that picture of the dress.
Yeah.
Did you make a dress? Did you make a dress?
I don't know if it was that or Dominican.
It's just like we started dating when we were like 16, so she still looks the same, right?
Right. So moving on. No.
She's beautiful.
This is my last question I have.
The very last question?
The very last question. Do you want your kids to go into farming?
Yes, if they want to. So I think our job is to have a place for them if they want to do it. So otherwise, if they don't want to do it, that's fine. It'd be awesome if they did. It might have some bearing on whether or not I retire. We'll see.
Interesting.
Well, I don't know. Do that when we get to it. If they, one or both of them farms, I probably will never quit. If neither of them farms, and the mortgages are pretty much paid down, we can do pretty well not working. But I feel like I'd have to have like 500 acres to screw around with.
Okay.
I might be way over equipped to do it, but it wouldn't take me very long.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay.